Hi, everyone. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about support groups. I did a reading this morning, and the person that I read has been going to a support group now for about 3 years. She lost a child to cancer, and she just is in such a very sad state right now. And I want to talk about support groups because I know there are some wonderful support groups out there, but support groups are supposed to do what the title says. They're supposed to support you. They're supposed to encourage you. They're supposed to help you. I know that there's nothing worse than the loss of a child, is what I'm told. I haven't experienced it personally, thank God, but I came close to losing my one son who was born with severe congenital heart disease. But thank God he lived through his surgery, and he's going to be 40 years old in March. So I am always eternally grateful for that, and remember to thank God every day for him and for the good health of my other two sons as well. But I really think that some support groups feed the grief. And I want you to be aware of that. This woman, I asked her, I said, you've been in the support group for 3 years. Tell me what you do. And she said, basically what they do is they go to the support group and they just talk about their child. And they cry together and they cry together. And I said, do you ever, laugh together? Do you ever, do you ever plan to go out together? Do you ever have dinner together and, try to talk about ways to encourage each other and help each other? Do you talk about journaling and releasing, or walking the labyrinth, or doing things that's going to help you release and move on from this grief? Now, I'm not saying that there's no manual on grief. It's an individual journey, and I always tell people everybody has to grieve in their own way. But I like people to talk to other people who have had similar losses, because if a parent looks at another parent and says, I know what you're going through, to the parent who just lost their child, and they have never lost a child, then they really have no right to say that, because they don't know what it's like to lose a child. So I believe that support groups are good in the sense that you can support each other and understand each other's feelings that way. However, it's important that these support groups help you move on. It has to be a stepping stone event. It just can't be every week or every month or however often you go. To just continue to feed that grief. Okay, you need to move on. You need to learn how to accept it. You're never going to get over it. You're always going to miss and love that individual that isn't with you anymore. But it's important that you understand that their life here was over. It was God's time and their time for them to pass. No matter how they pass, it's always God's time. But you are still here. You're still alive. It's important that you still, hold on to their memory, keep them alive in your hearts and minds. Understand that they're in a beautiful place. They're where they want to be and where they want to be. But it's still your time to live. You still have to learn to embrace life and be happy with life and continue. So again, I like support groups. I think they're wonderful for people who need it. But make sure that you're in a support group that feeds your soul and helps you in a way that helps you to move on and get out of the deep grief. Because after 3 years, of course, she will still feel grief, but it's still she told me it's like every week when she goes to the support group, she comes home more depressed than when she went. So that's not a good way to be. That's not a support group that's helping her move on, or anyone else in that group, I imagine. So just a little bit. Make sure that it's feeding, that the support group that you belong to is feeding your soul, and maybe you can be the voice. If you're going to a support group like the one I just explained, maybe you can be the voice that's going to enlighten the people that run it and bring some new, fresh programs or topics or suggestions that's going to help you all move on. Okay? So just a little bit tonight about support groups, and as always, I leave you in God's love and light.